Hey, good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic Live. I'm your host, Neil Johnson, with a special treat for you. I have a guest that I have brought on to talk specifically about China. People are freaking out over these tariffs, okay? Like, oh no, China's going to take us down because, we can't get all our cheap Chinese crap, or whatever. But we did see a big move from China the other day on the rare earth minerals, and they're weaponizing that. And so my guest, I follow a lot of his threads on X. He does a really great job of aggregating and bringing forth the news in a way that makes it easy to understand. So I'm going to bring him in right now, introduce him to you, and that's Rod Martin. Rod, good to have you on the show.
Good to be here. And if you want our in-depth analysis, that's at rodmartin.org. We encourage everybody to go check that out too.
Yeah, you're a philosopher economist, it says in your bio. So what is a philosopher economist?
Well, you'd have to ask The Guardian. They're the ones who said it. But nevertheless, I'm pretty committed to approaching all these things from a unified worldview, and which is what we do at rodmartin.org. It's also what we do at Martin Capital, where I'm CEO. We invest in technology and the future and human potential. And that is the correct future. That is the opposite of the socialist night they wish to push us into.
Well said. Well, I want to, before we get going, folks, do me a favor, smash that like button if you would. Chat in with where you're from and share this stream out there. You will not be disappointed. Here, I got to let you know, though, I got to mention my sponsor, Birch Gold. Tariffs, since we're talking about that today, there's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of chaos going on right now in the markets about potential widespread inflation tied to massive supply chain disruptions, which is exactly what we're talking about on this show. And it's weighing heavily on a lot of people. But President Trump did specifically exempt gold and silver bullion from the tariffs. And while these new policies are triggering significant financial chaos, the administration preserved your ability to diversify into precious metals. I believe right now, folks, it's my own. I'm not your financial advisor, but I've done really well with my gold and silver investments over the last year. And the reality is, as our dollar becomes less, gold has never been worth nothing, and it is appreciated slower than the markets. And I don't believe, like, you hear all these people and they're like, well, yeah, that's because gold's not as good of an investment. No, I believe the stock market is overinflated. I mean, you look at historic PE ratios and it's overinflated. So gold has the most room to run. That's why it's been running this year. And I know in Arkansas, didn't they just pass a law? I know I think I'd seen that on X-Rod. Had you seen that as well?
Oh, well, I was involved in it. We've been pushing the idea of monetized transactional gold to multiple state legislatures now for 2 or 3 years. And the idea is very simple. Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution allows states to issue 100% gold or silver-backed currency. And we've got Supreme Court case law on this going back centuries, in fact, and there's just no question this is completely legal, it's completely constitutional, and there's not a dadgum thing the Federal Reserve can do about it. So if the states choose to do this, they are free under existing case law to do so, issued through a state chartered bank or through their own offices, or they can do it as coins, obviously, but they can also do it as banknotes, which is what historically they did. And we can apply that directly to an electronic format where you have infinitely divisible gold. You're drawing on it from, for instance, if we were to pass this in Texas, the Texas Bullion Depository, which already exists, hoping to establish one in Florida. I don't know what Arkansas is going to do about that. But what this would let you do is it would let you spend your gold or be paid in gold anywhere in the world that takes a credit card. And it's just transformative, because the crucial point here is that gold isn't really a commodity. Gold is money. And the dollar has lost 87% of its value since Nixon closed the gold window in 1971. So if you're holding your assets in dollars or any other fiat currency, you're just toast. And no wealthy people do that. Wealthy people absolutely diversify their assets into things that account for that inflation. Gold is another way you can account for that inflation. And what we just saw passed and Sarah Huckabee signed in Arkansas today, and what we're trying to do in a number of other states, will actually put that gold in a usable form, accessible to even the poorest among us. It'll just be transformative.
Wow, this is exciting. I didn't expect all of this when I got you on, because I want to talk about China. But folks, get your free info kit on gold by texting the word lumberjack to the number 989898. Again, that's 989898. Text the word lumberjack. There's no obligation, folks. It's just an information kit, and you can decide where you want to go from there if gold investing is right for you. So, Rod, I'm going to bring in your X page because there's two specific threads here that you did on China that I thought were very poignant for where we're at right now. So, and one is dealing with the rare earth metals, but I want to cover this other one first. And it says, what's really going on with China? Trump's tariff strategy isn't just about economics. It's about containing the next global threat, China. And trust me, this goes deeper than the mainstream media will tell you. And you put together this nice thread on it. This going back to some comments too from the Reagan time. But and then the next one will be about China and the rare earth metals. So do you want me just to like follow through on that? Like, should we just go through this step by step?
I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, look, the truth is there are two classes of countries in the world. There are all of our trading partners, and then there's China. And China, unlike the others, spends way too much time threatening to nuke Los Angeles or attack Taiwan. This is a real threat. These are bad people, not Chinese people, but Chinese communists. The people who run the mainland now since October 1st, 1949, and murdered 65 million of their own people in the 20th century. And if you think that's just ancient history, sorry, check out the genocide they're conducting as we speak against the Uyghurs and using slave labor there to produce your iPhone. It is a horrible, horrible thing. And Donald Trump has two very different tracks on tariffs. The first one, of course, is the one he's told basically everybody, come make a deal with us. We're happy to have zero tariffs, but you actually have to have them back. We're not going to have these fake free trade deals anymore that are completely lopsided, which we did in the Cold War perfectly sensibly to prop up our allies, especially after they had been flattened in World War II. But the Cold War was won 35 years ago. So why are we still doing that? We deserve the exact same access to foreign markets that we give to them in the United States. And I give you a perfect example of just how foolish this is. The European Union charges us 4 times the tariff on American automobiles that we charge on European cars coming here. It's just absurd. How on earth does that make sense? Germany is the 3rd largest economy in the world. Why are we needing to prop them up? Just like, why are they paying 1.4% of their GDP on defense while we're picking up 70% of the cost of the mutual defense of the entire NATO alliance? That might have made sense in 1949. It makes 0 sense in 2025. And so Trump is just saying, fair's fair. You can have high tariffs if you want, but you're going to get them back. And if you want to cut them down all the way to 0, like we're talking about now with Vietnam and Argentina and Israel, if you want to do that, great. We can have an era of prosperity for everybody, but it's going to be fair. Now, China is another matter. China is a real threat, and we know that because they tell us so. It's not a hypothetical. Countries that actually threaten to nuke the United States on a relatively regular basis are not our friend. And so Trump wishes to isolate them, decouple the U.S. economy from them, and put them in a position where they aren't a threat to anybody.
Well, I want to bring this in because I thought this was here's what the enemy media won't tell you. China has massive problems. Their aging population, thanks to the brutal one-child policy, not enough young people to support the old, 1 billion people still living in poverty, and a deeply corrupt system. And then you go through China population by age, and you can see this here, male and female. And this one child policy was led to forced abortions, all of it, over there in China. And I actually met some of the oppressed populations of China out at the Washington, D.C. some years ago. Actually, on January 6th, it was the famous day. They had their vans up, and they were exposing what China was up to. And I hear Michael Bloomberg talk about how, well, Xi's just a really nice guy who's doing all these good things for his people, but that's not what's going on. Not at all.
No, it's not. And take everything that the media wants to tell you about Vladimir Putin, who is certainly not a good guy, but take all of that and multiply it by 10, and you're starting to have an idea of Xi Jinping. This is an evil communist dictator, and he is oppressing his people, and he would oppress our people if he had the chance. So Trump is being realistic about that. The Clinton administration and the Bush administration and the Obama administration spent decades kowtowing to China and building up the export-based economy that has made them somewhat rich. I mean, certainly parts of China are rich, but many parts of China are dirt poor. I mean, some of the worst of the third world. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people. And that can't be solved when you have the demographic crisis you just illustrated on screen. What's happened, of course, is they bought into the same overpopulation lie that the socialists pushed everywhere in the world. And they acted on it because they're China and that's what they do. So they forced everybody to have just one child. Well, two things happened from that. All the forced abortions you're talking about, but also a cultural shift from one which honored and encouraged large families, very much like the creation mandate in Christianity, to one that now is very selfish, very self-focused, very career-minded, and not interested in having more children. Also not really able to, because as young people have moved into the cities, they've been crowded into these communist engineered tenements where they really don't have space for children. They can't make enough money to pay for enough room for children. And it's sort of a self-inflicted wound. So what does that mean? Well, bottom line is they already have a lot less population than they're pretending. That number, officially is about 1.4 billion. In reality, it's about 1.28. And the difference is, wait for it, 120 million people. That means they have a missing population the size of Japan. And that's just extraordinary. And worse yet, it's mostly among working age people. So you have fewer and fewer working age people to support a ballooning elderly population that doesn't have sufficient Social Security. And most of their retirement savings got put into huge real estate developments that are now worth pennies on the dollar. So what you're going to have, best case scenario, they lose half their population by the end of the century. More likely, they hit about 310 million, which is 25% of their current population. It means that by the end of the century, America is larger than China. And nobody is going to be able to sustain some huge push to conquer Taiwan or whatever they want to do with that kind of catastrophe in progress. That makes them super dangerous. The next decade or two, while this kind of tops out and starts the other way, is the most dangerous. They know they have to grab what they can while they still can.
Do you know what's interesting? So there's three things that you just covered that I want to address. One, you've got that they were forced into these communist cities. And a bunch of these communist cities are just over there rotting away these buildings. And I want to know what the heck that's all about. I mean, they are completely devoid. It's like ghost towns over there in China. And I don't understand what the thought process. The other thing is, why did Obama, why did Biden, why did these other people promote China? I want to hear your thoughts on that. Why did they have the policies they had with China to allow China to achieve that type of economic strength? And now I forget what the third one is, but that gives you two things to run on really quickly.
Why did we encourage this? Well, the nice way to say it is that there was a widespread belief among our elites that if you just helped China make money, they would be weaned off of communism, and they would become more democratic, they would become more free, and they would quit it with the human rights violations. Well, that proved to be hooey. In reality, we just made a bunch of totalitarians rich. So you have this veneer of capitalism in a good bit of the country, but in reality, you have a command and control economy, top down, centrally planned, just like before, just under the surface. So that's exactly why you have all these ghost cities. The communist government has to maintain a degree of prosperity to keep the willing serfdom of the population. China is a country that has a long, long history of spinning apart into warlord states and competing violent factions. And no one is more aware of that than Xi Jinping. So they have done everything they can to maintain economic growth, some of which is just utterly bogus, like building entire cities from scratch that nobody lives in and probably nobody ever will. And, that's great for the construction industry. That's great for lending. That's great for all kinds of sectors of the economy until someone has to pay the piper. And that's happening now.
Yeah, it's good until it isn't. I mean, this is like that kind of supply side economic crap that they try to pull on us here in the US too, where they're saying, well, if the government just shells out more money, everything's going to get better. And it's never happened. It's like the school system that tells us, just give us more money because, we're suffering, education suffering. You just need to give us more money and it'll get better. We've been buying that lie for 40 years, giving education more money, and it's never gotten better. It's only
gotten markedly worse, because just throwing money at a problem doesn't solve your problem. That's why you have huge innovation in the private sector. That's why you have an iPhone. That's why you have Elon's Starship. That, the government solution for that same problem is SLS, which we're told now will cost $4.5 billion per launch. And it's 100% non-reusable. Starship will be about $2 million per launch, not 2 billion, 2 million, and it's 100% reusable. And that's the difference between the private sector and the government. And how much more so in a country like China, where the people have no say whatsoever over their government. So you can have a scandal and it just doesn't matter. There's no meaningful election. There's no possible recourse. You just have top-down control. And they have allowed the private sector to flourish enough to build up their war machine. They have not done more than that. They're not going to do more than that. And this goes nowhere good.
No, I've got to bring in this. I've got this. I think this is a poignant point too. Reagan beat the Soviets in part by bankrupting them. He and the Saudis crashed the price of oil, drying up their hard currency while turning the arms race up to the max. Trump paid attention. So, this was the other one. I really think I want to get your thoughts on this, Rod. I believe, and this was the thing for me with Trump getting elected. I felt we had one shot at getting our country back. This was the last shot to me. And we also have one last shot at getting the things righted in the world in terms of trade, because eventually we don't have as much power. If we continue down this road, we will not have the same economic clout that we do now. I think we're 25%. Am I right on this? 25% of the world's market, in terms of, selling to a country. I mean, we're 25% of the world's gross product, I guess.
Actually, 26% of the entire global economy, even though we're just 4% of the world's population. And this is the huge truth that Donald Trump grasps that our literati seem completely oblivious to. We are the world's largest consumer market. What that trade deficit we have, which this year I think is $1.2 trillion more that we buy from other people than we sell to them. What that means is they need us more than we need them. I mean, it's just that simple. The people who are all worried about, oh, I won't be able to get cheap stuff from China. Well, trust me, you'll get plenty of stuff. The world won't end if you don't get a cheap t-shirt, but the world will end for China if they can't sell you one. And that's the crucial difference. Take Germany. I mentioned a minute ago, Germany is the third largest economy in the world. 48% of their economy is exports. 48%. If you really made a dent in that, they'd have a depression. Now, China is actually a little better than that, but only because they have such an enormous population, and that's going away. And we see this all over the world. They're selling to us. They're making money from us. That's fine. I mean, so far as it goes, but it would be finer if it were fairer. And we want the same access to their markets that they have to ours. Then we can have true competition. Then everybody really can get better together, and the world just becomes much wealthier. You want to eliminate poverty? That's how you eliminate poverty.
Well, so, this is such a great conversation. Guys, you have got to give Rod a follow on X. And I've been posting his X handle in here ad nauseum, okay? And some of you have seen it, I'm sure. I'm going to put it right up here right now. Get it at Rod D. Martin on X. Puts together fantastic threads, not just about, global trade wars, but a whole host of things. You got a great one going right now on the IRS. I swear I need to do a video on the IRS meltdown because it's fantastic. But look at this. This is, I think, so good. While the enemy media screams trade war, 135 countries are already lining up to negotiate with Trump's team. They want free trade deals. Now that Trump's shown them the alternative, China's getting different treatment for a reason. And I think this goes back to your previous point and my previous point as well. We will not have this same clout forever. This does not exist forever. So right now we have these countries lining up and China's playing, this other game with the rare earth metals. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. I do want to bring on, I've got another guy. He's going to ask you some questions too, but a good friend here on YouTube. This is a veteran biker, Ben, good to see you on. Meet Rod, meet Ben.
I'd like to say hello in Chinese. Hello.
There you go.
How's everything going, Rod? Nice to meet you. I saw that you're from sort of my part of the country. I grew up in the Panhandle, like lower Alabama area. I see you're out of Panhandle, Destin, over in that area.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
Yep.
indeed.
Yeah, I grew up north of Panama City, Vernon, Bonifay, around there.
That's nice. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm looking at the Gulf of America right there.
Damn right. Damn right.
But I think the thing that's so big to me is like we have all these other countries now lining up because we have this market. And now on the flip side, the other post you had up was talking about how basically China is trying to weaponize right now the rare earth. Okay. And so I want to bring this in and we'll talk about that quickly as well. And that just disappeared.
Well, and that's a self-inflicted wound on our part. We produce plenty of rare earths. We just don't have refining capacity for them. So, we're counting on China to do that dirty work, and it's largely a function of the Green New Deal. The Biden crew and the Obama crew before them did everything they could to environmentally regulate these things out of production and out of the U.S. market. So, they're just outsourcing it. They want to claim these numbers for their Kyoto targets or Paris or whatever. But they're really just kicking the can over to China. And I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. We have had to endure paper straws under the Obama-Biden crew. I mean, what could be more useless than a paper straw? And this is because we're killing marine wildlife and stuff. Well, wait a second. It turns out that 95% of all of the plastic in the ocean comes from China and India.
Yeah.
95%. So your paper straw isn't doing a bit of good for anybody. It's just making your life stink. So, Trump is being realistic about that. We are actually the cleanest major industrialized country in the
Yes.
world, precisely because we do have a free market and we do have a relatively responsive government. And that government's going to get a lot more responsive as we deconstruct the deep state. We get rid of these unconstitutional independent agencies, and we actually make elections matter again.
What's your take on the recent news that just came out with the mayor of Boston being funded? Her campaign was funded by the Chinese Communist Party.
I actually hadn't heard that, but that's not terribly surprising. I was going to say
it's
in the earlier segment, you know, the nice way of describing how Democrats and also Republicans encourage the needless growth of China as a threat is that we hoped this would make them do better, that they'd become freer as they became richer. Well, that was hooey, but at least it was worth a shot. But the truth is, if you'll recall, Bill Gertz at the Washington Times did some blockbuster investigative journalism in the mid-90s showing the huge funnel of communist Chinese cash to the Clinton campaign in 1996. And I don't know why on earth the Republicans thought it was a good idea to go after Trump for Monica Lewinsky when they could have gone after him for that. That would have put him in prison forever. But the Chinese have been buying all the influence they possibly can in the United States for a very long time. And who can blame them? It's absolutely the smartest play they can make. And it sure beats nuking us. So, you know, if they can get us to nuke ourselves, that's way better.
Well, one of Trump's biggest adversaries is Walmart, the Walmart family. And you know as good as I do, go into Walmart and try to find something that's made in USA. So I think these tariffs, I think it's kind of an indirected, backhanded slap in the face to the Walton family, and they deserve every damn thing they get. And I live here in Arkansas, and I'd say that proudly. Because they have, I mean, they're paying slave wages. They have actual dorms for these Chinese people to live in. They live there. They never leave the building, and they just work in these factories. Go watch on, I think Netflix pulled it. You could probably find it somewhere. It's called Walmart, The High Cost of Low Prices. It's absolutely a phenomenal documentary on how corrupt that partnership between the Waltons and China is.
And you know, being in Arkansas, you should know as well as anybody that it wasn't always that way.
No,
when
Sam was a great guy.
Alive, it was all about made in the USA by America.
Right.
And they were really, really serious about it. And they did a lot to bring down the cost of U.S. manufacturing by buying it and selling it. Yeah. And they abandoned that completely 20 years ago.
The tariffs, in my opinion, are working. I'm seeing it. I hear it. I used to work in DC as a lobbyist. When you have organizations like Americans for Prosperity, that is a Koch arm of danger, coming out and supporting tariffs, either they're drunk or something's going on. But Americans for Prosperity, the big PAC that the Koch brothers run, or the Koch brother runs, they're advocating for it. So something's happening. There's some kind of global dynamic shift that we're seeing, and I'm glad to see it.
They're starting to figure it out. I mean, Donald Trump is not trying to go for autarky. He's not trying to create massive trade barriers. What he's trying to do is knock some down. And he's just the guy who negotiates all these great real estate deals and has figured out long ago that if you don't use the stick, the carrot won't help. We've had plenty of administrations beg and plead a lot of these countries to bring down their trade barriers. They aren't ever going to do that. But Trump comes in and he says, look, if you're not going to spend enough to defend yourself from Russia, why are we spending a penny to defend you from Russia? Up your defense spending. And our idiot pundits are like, oh, he wants to destroy NATO. No, he wants our partners to actually be partners and not dependents.
They've got to have some buy-in. They've got to have some buy-in. I'm retired from the military, Rod. They've got to have some buy-in, and they're not. They're using us. We have been used. And Trump has talked about this since, I don't know, 40 years ago when Oprah was on one of her highs or lows in her weight loss program with the big hair and wearing the funny clothes and giving away things. Trump's been on the same path the entire time. He's not deviated. The Democrat Party worshiped him when he was on The Apprentice, making millions for NBC. And as soon as he came down the escalator, they flipped on him. And it's such a disgusting move by the Democrat Party. Now the Democrats, their hill to die on now is they're trying to beg Bukele to get some damn migrant out of a prison to bring him back here so he can get deported again. That's their hill to die on.
Restraining orders against him from his wife.
That's their hill to die on. And I love it.
Country.
I love it.
Then
what are they
he gets picked up by Tennessee Highway Patrol.
I love it.
They've got a he's on a terrorist watch list, and the FBI is like, let him go. You got to let him go. This story gets wilder. I almost wonder, Rod, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. Do you think that Trump had all this information about just how bad this guy was, and then let the liberals jump the shark on this thing so then they could get the media coming up?
I was literally saying that today. I think they set up the Democrats with the not entirely accurate statement that they had mistakenly deported him. It's what in tort law we would call an attractive nuisance. They all had to go for it, and they didn't do their vetting. This is a terrible human being. This guy is a U.S. gang member, and a court found it to be true, and it was upheld on appeal. He actually is involved in what our government has designated as terrorism, and he's a wife beater.
I love it.
They're flying to El Salvador to try to bring him illegally back into the country. It's just absurd.
I hope they make campaign posters with this. I mean, most Democrats wear a Che Guevara shirt. He murdered hundreds of thousands of people. So why not add this guy to it? We could put George Floyd, Che Guevara, and Kareem Alejo, or whatever his asshole's name is. Put them all on the shirt. They got the Three Stooges right there. This is the new George Floyd. This guy is the new George Floyd. I love it.
Oh yeah, and if they keep doing this, we're going to win elections out to the horizon. And the people we have to worry about the most are not the Democrats at this point, but the stupid Republicans who never.
The rhinos. I'm pissed off at Thomas Massey.
Always screwing it up. But Donald Trump is not one to screw it up. And my sense is we've got a bench. J.D. Vance is pretty serious. Ron DeSantis has been an amazing governor. There's no getting around that. And we've got others. Ted Cruz is out there still. And, other guys who get it. You've got to actually operate from a position of strength if you're the strongest country on planet Earth. We've got to quit it with the mother may I. I have no issue defending Europe. I have every issue with them acting like teenagers in our basement who won't get a job.
Yeah. I'm not a big Ted Cruz fan. I think Ted Cruz talks a great game. He's really good at sound bites, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, because Marjorie Taylor Greene has never actually passed a bill or got a bill passed that she sponsored. Never.
Do you know what?
She's great for sound bites.
I'm totally
great for sound bites.
From you on this, Ben, because I don't want them passing any more freaking bills. Every time
I would like them to do something. Though. I'd love them to do something.
I'd love them to get rid of bills. I mean, I'd love them to just eliminate laws. That's what I want.
Never happen. It's just like Thomas Massey. He votes with the Democrats more than he does with Republicans, which I think is ironic. Kentucky's got a problem.
It really can. And I'll give you an example. In 2017, Donald Trump used every legal mechanism at his disposal to follow up on his promise to eliminate 2 regulations for every 1 new one. He ended up eliminating 22 regulations for every 1 new one. It can be done. It must be done. And if the Supreme Court will come through with a ruling overturning Humphrey's executor, you combine that with the overturning of Chevron and some of the other good stuff they've done over the last couple of years, we've got a real shot at forcing Congress to either repass all of these administrative regulations or eliminate them. And that's what I'm talking about. You've got to make elections matter. It's got to matter that you elect a president, and it doesn't matter if he can't fire people, if he's not in a position to actually reign.
Absolutely.
agencies. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. That's the opening words of Article 2, Section 1. So you've got to do that, but you've also got to force Congress to legislate. And the key issue here is one that's been a dead letter at the Supreme Court since 1935, the non-delegation doctrine, which says that Congress can't delegate its constitutional powers to somebody else. And the other branches can't either, but Congress is the one that's really guilty here. If they actually have to legislate, your election for Congress matters. Your election for Senate matters. And of course, your election for president matters. And that is the last thing they want. And I'll just sum up that line of thought with this. I've written quite a bit about this at rodmartin.org over the last several months. The reality is that the administrative state as we know it, the so-called deep state, is by design. It didn't just like Topsy, it grew. This was FDR's effort to create such a top-down authority as America had never before seen, and to staff it entirely with Democrats. So, okay, he dies in office. He's succeeded by another Democrat. All the administrative agencies are going to do what Harry Truman says to, but then you get a Dwight Eisenhower, and it just keeps operating as a bunch of Democrats. You get a Nixon, you get a Ford, you get a Reagan, you get a Bush, you get a Bush, you get a Trump. They keep doing all the same things they would do if there were a Democrat president, and just ignoring anything that the Republicans want to get done. That's a coup. That's nothing but a stealth coup. We have been under an unconstitutional form of government for 90 years, and Donald Trump is the first one to actually not only realize it, but take a meat axe to it.
Amen. No, 100%. Rod, I am getting like, and maybe I don't have the inside track on this. I don't know the full picture, but I've been a little frustrated. It sounded like when Elon came in talking Doge, I mean, we're cutting $2 billion. We're getting back to pre-COVID spending levels. And now they're talking like hundreds of millions. I mean, is there a plan to get us back to the $2 million cuts? Or 2 trillion. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 trillion. Yeah, thank you.
And yeah, I think that's very much on the menu. I think first of all, the media is doing everything it can to poo-hoo this, and we must not lose track of that. The reality of millions, 4 million illegal aliens being given a Social Security number and benefits just last year, just under Biden. It's just extraordinary. And that money adds up. And there are 1,000 examples of that. You look at USAID, where we've eliminated 87% of their programs, gone. That's
I love it.
Deal. And you start doing some of these things, and it starts making a real dent. Now, how much of a dent, how quickly, I don't know. And I don't think Elon has any way to know, but I think they're moving really aggressively, and I think they're going after everything they possibly can.
Well, I want to be more aggressive. I want to see like mass deportations. I'm talking like
I don't want to press 1 for English.
Like,
amen.
I mean, the train to Mexico, I want it just filled up. I mean, so we're sitting here talking about a guy going to an El Salvadorian prison, and they're making this big to-do about it and trying to stop that. And, if we have to litigate each case, this doesn't work. And so I just want them out. I mean, come on, and people are like, well, what about the families? Send them back together. That's their homeland.
Back together. That's right. None of these people have a right to be here. They're illegal aliens. And in some cases, they're here on temporary visas with temporary work permits and so forth. Okay, cancel them. You always knew it was temporary. This wasn't forever. The Biden crew, like the Obama crew before, did everything they could to flood the zone, to just fill the country with these people. And there are very specific benefits to Democrats from that. One of them, of course, is illegal voting. There's no question about that. Another one is having them in the country means that you have the opportunity eventually, when you get another Democrat supermajority, like you had in 2010 when we passed Obamacare, you get an opportunity at some point to give all these people amnesty and citizenship, and they're voters forever. And of course, we've prioritized bringing people here who will vote to the left. So there's all of that, but there are other pernicious things too. If you bloat the system of entitlements, you attract more and more of these people, and they will bring more and more of their family members. Also, if you pack them into places, into blue states like California, you increase artificially and fraudulently California's congressional delegation and electoral votes. Also, if you flood 20,000 Haitians into a place like Springfield, Ohio, that eventually goes from being a red state to a purple state to a blue state. Yes. This is all corrupt. It is just as corrupt as it can be. It is a nationwide gerrymander, and it's got to be stopped.
Neil, I got to bounce. I'm headed over to my channel. It's good talking with you, Rod. I love it. I follow you on X as well. No problem. No problem.
All right.
See you, buddy.
See ya. So yeah, Rod, how many folks just in the chat really quickly? I mean, do you see, I saw these threads. I've been following these threads for the last couple of months. You have just a great traction on X, and I probably see now why I wanted to get Rod on the show. How many of you want to have Rod back on the show in the chat? Just say yes if you want Rod back on the show. I want to see, but I mean, I just have so thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Rod, because I mean, you're knowledgeable, you're passionate, and you're thinking like me. I remember one time I was on a business trip. I used to be a director of sales and marketing, and I was with the president of the company. Everybody wants you back on. I knew that was going to be the case. I love my audience, but right. I'm at the Sheridan Airport in Cleveland, Ohio, having pierogies with the president of the company. And we were sitting there talking. I said, Jerry, I was 25 at the time. I said, I'm the most conservative 25-year-old guy I know. He looks at me and goes, Neil, you're the most conservative guy I know. He goes, I said, thank you. So yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah. That's so they all want you back on, Rod. You willing to come back on the show another time in the future?
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
All right. We gotta, I look forward to it. And yeah, we'll let's see. There was a couple starred things here. Okay, yeah, I covered those already. So starred comments. So I got to jump on the stream with Ben. But Rod, thanks for coming on. And I will. We've got each other's contact information now. I'm following you on X as well, and we'll see you in the near future, I'm sure.
Outstanding.
So thanks for joining us today. Really was, you actually turned out to be better than I even thought. So I'm really, you never know sometimes. So thanks. Thanks for not letting me down, folks. Go check out Mike Lindell. I mean, he's in the news all over again today. Go check him out at mypillow.com/lumberjack. Go get yourself some Rev 7 energy drinks or some pillows or towels. I just ordered some more sheets because my kid was on the stream. He's 12, right? And we just ordered some Giza sheets for him the other day. And so he's like, the other morning, he's like, I don't even want to get out of bed. I love these sheets so much. And so I go, so Jacob, he's on the stream, and he'd happen to be in the same room. I said, what do you think of those sheets? And he goes, those sheets are sick. He goes, so Mike said, I'm sending that kid another set. So
very good.
Anyways, but thanks for joining us, Rod.